Peter Tuffley for the Beckenham Neighbourhood Association. Peter Tuffley. Sorry, you're on.
Oh, thank you.
Go, Peter.
Is this on?
Yes, it is.
Ah, okay. Well, good afternoon, Madam Mayor and councillors.
Afternoon.
We're very grateful for this opportunity to address the council to follow up our original submission on this year's draft annual plan. The matters we principally wish to emphasise and elaborate on fall under three headings. One is finance, the second is water, and the third is the council's relationships with ECAN, especially as regards water-related and other issues. On the subject of finance, we're pleased to see the council fulfilling its LTP commitment to diminishing rate increases. However, although the lower average year-on-year increase is welcome, we have some concerns about the way in which percentage increases have been distributed across the spectrum of residential property values. We're particularly concerned about the potential impact on two distinct categories of household. One, which we mentioned in our original submission, is householders at the lower end of the property value spectrum who, not all, but who will be paying the highest percentage increase, and for some of whom, not all, but maybe a considerable proportion, are people for whom even a small increase in absolute terms may pose a difficult challenge. The other category which we thought about was residents at the higher value property end of the spectrum, but who fit the description asset rich but cash poor. Particularly elderly people living in large homes that were once family homes, and the families have left the nest and there they still are. We realise that any attempt to mitigate the impact on these two categories of ratepayer while preserving the lower average increase may be mathematically challenging, but we do feel that an effort should be made to achieve a more just distribution of the rate increase burden, and one which avoids adverse impacts on especially the less affluent members of the population. Apart from those concerns, we're happy. Other thing we're not too happy about is the way greater percentage increases fall on those of presumably lower income, as contrary to what has been a long-standing tradition of progressive taxation in New Zealand. Other than that, we're fully supportive of the notion that the council should be creative in seeking new sources of revenue, and we have suggested in our original submission the Lime Scooter Company as one potential source of revenue. They should pay for the licence to introduce a nuisance to the pavements, and revenue producing exploitation of recyclable materials as another possible source, and we gave one example of that. Turning to water-related matters, we found much to applaud in this area of the council's work. We applaud the high level of priority in the LTP in the allocation of resources to wastewater as well as to water supply, and in particular, Madam Mayor, your setting of safe and sustainable water supply at the top of the LTP list of strategic directions. We applaud too the proposed additional spending on wastewater and flow monitoring. We also applaud the studies undertaken in recent years into the ecological effects of emergency overflows. However, looking towards a time when the council will be required to seek renewal of emergency overflow consent, even though it's years in the future at present, we give notice that we will resolutely oppose any advocacy by council staff of a shift from incidence-based to effects-based consent conditions, because it's frequency of overflow incidents that residents, including many of our residents, are understandably most directly and immediately aware of and concerned about. On the subject of chlorination, we look forward to its elimination and would like to reiterate our support for the council's seeking an exemption if the government accepts the Havelock North Inquiry recommendation for permanent chlorination. That's something we do not want ever to see. Water, especially water quality and quantity, is a topic that looms large in the council's relations with the still undemocratic ECAN. Harmony and cooperation between the City Council and ECAN are vital for the well-being of the city and its residents, but that is by definition a two-way street. We've been dismayed at the lack of respect reportedly shown by ECAN officials with regard to the City Council's reiterated concerns on the Cloud Ocean bottling issue, and we will fully support any efforts by the Council to procure a judicial review of the consent given by ECAN. We believe the Council will be failing in its duty were it not to take a firm stand on this issue. Until we have a fully democratic ECAN with all its members accountable to electors, and with Christchurch having its due proportion of representation at the table, we do not feel confident that ECAN will act in good faith in its dealings with the City Council. We hope and expect that once ECAN has been democratically purged of appointees, elected city councillors and elected ECAN representatives of Christchurch constituencies will be able to work more constructively for the benefit of the city, and that the two authorities will work collaboratively at both official and member level. We submit that one area in which such collaboration is called for is public transport. We know, for example, of two instances in which residents of local communities, including our own, have been adversely affected by the deletion of bus services, with elderly residents being especially affected, and that ECAN has rejected requests that those services be reinstated. More generally, as long as ECAN remains in charge of public transport, it makes sense in principle for the City Council and ECAN to cooperate in improving public transport services. I'll close with referring to two relatively minor matters. One is our local, as yet unfulfilled, Mid-Heathcote Linear Park Master Plan and its implementation. We remain concerned that the LTP projected no continuation of funding beyond 2021, and we would like an explanation as we requested last year. Lastly, we would urge the Council to reopen the consultation on Council working relations with residents groups that was that was broken off in 2007. Given all that has happened in the city over the past dozen years or so, as well as the spirit of dialogue enunciated by yourself, Madam Mayor, we think a review of this policy is surely overdue. In conclusion, subject to the matters I've touched on, we're very broadly supportive of this year's draft annual plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Ref.
Yeah, thanks, Peter, for that. Quick question on the rates, especially for people who are asset-rich, cash-poor. Are you aware the council has had a policy for a couple of years where you can offset your rates against the equity value of your house?
Yes, we don't know what the uptake of that is.
It's very minimal because people just don't seem to know about it. But people are complaining about it, but there's an option there for them to actually deal with the cash flow issue.
Good. in that case, it should be much more widely publicised to
goes out in all the rates demands.
to get a bigger uptake.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you for your submission, and thank you for all your comments on water as well. Very helpful. I wonder if there's one other that you'd like to be involved in, particularly when it comes to making submissions on it, and that's the increase that the WIMAC ZIPA through ECAN is allowing into our drinking water. Up to
Excuse me, I didn't hear that very well.
the increase in nitrate level that's being allowed to leach into our drinking water under the WIMAC. That will come up very soon, and apart from the council making submissions, we would like lots of residents' associations and residents to make submissions.
You've got it. That
man.
is something we have been concerned about. It's been reported year after year during the undemocratic ECAN regime, and they don't seem to have paid it the least bit of attention.
Actually, they're proposing to raise the nitrate level.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, thank you very much for your submission, Peter. It's always good to hear from you.